Hello, once again. Welcome to Ballin with Roy and Edwyn. I am Roy S. Johnson, and of course, y'all know my son, Edwyn. What's going on, son? How you doing? What's up?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Lots going on this week. You know, this is that part of the year where you think not much is going on, but we got SEC Media Day. So that means college football is right around the corner. Got a little baseball and some other things. We're going to get to college football later, but let's start out with a belated happy birthday, 100th birthday to Rachel Robinson, the widow, of course, of Jackie Robinson, the first African-American to break the color line in Major League Baseball in 1947. I call her the first lady of Major League Baseball, certainly a distinguished woman that I met many times when lived in New York. Went to usually the Jackie Robinson Foundation event, and she was always gracious. They celebrated her this week at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and where she had been many times to visit with the Dodgers, but the great tribute was made by Denzel Washington, who wished her happy birthday, and probably the loudest singing of happy birthday ever was when the packed crowd at Dodger Stadium sang happy birthday to Rachel Robinson. Let's just take a minute, and I'd love to hear your take on what Jackie Robinson means to you and what he should mean to athletes today.
Well, for him to break chains like so many athletes did at that point in time, so many black athletes did, what he had to go through, all the discrimination, whether it was hotels he couldn't sleep in with his teammates, restaurants he couldn't eat in with them, or just simply going through hostile crowds and fans just being called all different types of things, whether it was the N-word being spit on, thrown at, but just to show, how great, black athletes are. Whether it's him and Muhammad Ali, they should show a lot of things, just especially the times that we're going through now too, because we are going through similar things now. It may be a little bit different, but it's similar. It should just show that all of us, come together, we can overcome just all the challenges, whether it be on the field, on the court, off the court, etc. And I just think that for somebody my age too, to appreciate that, because somebody like me who has knowledge of sports, I just give them all the credit and all the thanks in the world though for that.
Yeah, you really can't overstate how important Jackie and other athletes who were first were to breaking barriers and showing America not just that we could compete in sports, but those barriers being broken there led to barriers being broken in business, in culture, in faith, in a lot of different areas. So it wasn't just sports where Jackie Robinson and others left their footprint. It's also important to acknowledge that he was not totally alone. I always remember a gentleman by the name of Larry Doby, who was the second African-American signed with the Cleveland Indians, and people often forget him, but he went through the same trials and tribulations and discrimination that Jackie Robinson did, as did other African-American players at that time. So while Jackie is rightly celebrated, while we do this, we should also remember other athletes who endured the same and who are part of that foundation upon which today's young athletes stand, upon the shoulders upon which they stand. So happy birthday once again to Rachel Robinson, 100. And I'm wearing this shirt today because this week Carlos Santana also celebrated his 75th birthday. So big birthday week for some people that we admire and respect. All right, so let's turn to the NBA. A lot of flurry of stuff going on, but one thing that isn't happening is Kevin Durant has not been traded yet. I mean, we've been talking about Kevin Durant for weeks since he demanded to be traded, since Adam Silver kind of criticized him for it. And here was this quote that some people think that the market for KD has dried up. What do you think? You think he's going to be traded, or do you think that he is going to stay in Brooklyn?
I don't think he's going to be traded. I think he's going to stay in Brooklyn. I think the market for him is drying up. Regardless, no matter if he says he wants to be traded, he's unhappy, and I do understand why, because your best friend, your friend wants you to come there. And I think sometimes we have to understand in any type of business, sometimes you cannot go into business with your friends. Sometimes you have to keep a friendship and the business separate.
Mm-hmm.
I get he was unhappy with Kyrie's decision, and James Harden was too. That's why James Harden wanted to leave also. But he just likes to play basketball. No matter what, he's always going to want to play. If he's there, he's not going to hold out and not come to practice or training camp. He's going to continue to play basketball because that's what he loves to do. He doesn't necessarily like to be a leader or vocal guy. He just likes to play ball and lead by example. So I think either way, he's going to stay there, and you're still going to get everything you can get from him in terms of his ability. I think the Kyrie situation, and it's not even distracting him, but he doesn't want to be asked about that. He doesn't want to be asked any questions. Kyrie's going to do whatever he wants to do or whatever the team feels that they're going to do with him. But I think he is going to be there. I think he is going to give it everything he has, regardless whether he feels about it or not. Anything else, he's going to just handle that off the court.
Why do you think the market for him is dried up? Is it his fault and his agent's fault, or is Brooklyn just asking too much and teams are just not willing to give up their star players? There's so many teams that are kind of on the verge, right? They've been building, they've got a solid core. If Brooklyn is demanding one of their top players, like Miami, if they're demanding Jimmy Butler or one of their top players, they're going, I don't know if I'm willing to do that for a player who's 33 years old. Why do you think the market for him is dried up? The
market is, one, because of injuries, and he's 33 years old. He's getting a little bit older, so some players are going to have a little bit more than others, going to miss some time. But you can say that, okay, Kevin Durant. That doesn't mean just because a player is better that he's going to fit your system. He may be better than Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Butler fits the system in terms of playing defense, in terms of just being selfish, all about basketball, all about physical defense, that the system that Pat Riley created down there. So does he fit that? Maybe not necessarily. You can talk about the possibility of trading him and LeBron. Okay, that's a possibility. Well, first of all, it's not. In my eyes, it's not. But even if you do that, would you get something better in return? Maybe so. And if AD is there, but no, that doesn't make any sense. So I think that's a part of it too also. And I really think they don't want to. This is his request. He asked to be traded. His contract isn't over yet. It's not done. And yet again, he wants to leave another situation. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have left Golden State, but he did. He chose to team up with his friend Kyrie.
So maybe this is big. Brooklyn's asking so much because they really don't want.
They don't want to trade him. I mean, for one, you're still in the contract, with two, you still have a pretty good player, arguably the best player in the world over LeBron at this point in time. So I understand that. Okay.
Another player signed a new contract this week. It was really more just financial maneuvering. James Harden in Philadelphia signed a 2-year, $68.6 million contract. He had declined a $47.4 million 1-year option. So basically, he took a little bit of a pay cut, down to $33 million in the first year, but got more on the back end, $35 the following year, which is also an option. This gave the 76ers some cap flexibility to sign some free agents. They signed PJ Tucker and Daniel House. So it just allowed them to make some moves on their roster to hopefully make them a better team. He gets his money on the back end. He can also decline next year's option and become a free agent again. So this is more housekeeping maneuvering. When he declined the option, there was some speculation about whether he would go somewhere else. Clearly, this was just a move to give the Sixers more flexibility, to get him some help. Clearly, Harden is not the player he was in Houston. So Joel Embiid and Harden are going to need more help in Philadelphia. Do you like the fact that they're building their roster this way?
I like it because, like you just said, they need more to win a championship, and I think that is the long-term goal. I think that is what everybody talked about when he went there is, okay, you have to win a championship, and when are you going to? I didn't think they were going to win it last year, but within the next 2 years, do you need to do that? Yes, absolutely. People need to do that. I think Doc needs to do that also, because I think there is this speculation of just paying attention to Doc, and then you talk about James Harden, his relationship too. I don't know if you're going to get a long-term commitment from him, so I think just being able to have the option after this comes season to do that, that's good also. But having more role players around you, getting PJ Tucker, having a defender like him, and then having a Maxey and Tobias Harris, those guys who are other weapons too, that is what it is. And no, he is not the same player that he once was in Houston. Can he be that again though? Yes. He can be that if he is in the right mental space, he can be that. If he is in shape, because we've seen him come out of shape, and even though he gained that weight, he still had a lot of stamina left. I admit that. But if you talk about him in tip-top shape, he can still do that when Joel Embiid goes down, because Joel Embiid is going to miss some games also, but you still have to give him the ball, so he can't always take those shots that he used to take there. But if he is able to mix up those shots and then the times to be able to step up offensively when Joel Embiid goes down, that is what's going to help them get closer to winning the championship. Because, right, you still have Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a better team than them. Miami is a better team than them. Boston is a better team than them.
I like the moves because they've got to get themselves in that part of the conversation. All those three teams you mentioned have solidified their places as the top teams in the East. As Philadelphia wants to be in that conversation, they had to make some moves. So I like it. Can't wait to see what happens there. So the Bleacher Report came out with a conversation starter. They decided to name the best big three in the NBA right now. And here is their list. Of course, they had Milwaukee at the top with Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. Golden State number 2, which is interesting since Golden State is the reigning champion. They had Steph, Clay, and of course Draymond Green as that big three. But then they had the Brooklyn Nets at number 3 with Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons. Philly at number 4 with Joel Embiid, Harden, and Tyrese Maxey. And Phoenix at number 5, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton. What do you think of this list? I got my own feelings, but tell me what you thought about this list when you saw it.
So because Golden State won the championship last year, I would say they're the number 1 big three. I will put Milwaukee at 2. They won it the year before, and within the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to win another one. So I'll give Milwaukee number 2. Phoenix, I will put it 3.
Okay.
The reason why Chris Paul is older, Chris Paul can still do a lot at his age, but having Devin Booker, DeAndre, and those 2 young guys, there's a lot that they're going to still be able to do and compete in the West, because the West is stacked as it always is. So I'll put them at 3. Philly, though, Tyrese Maxey is a good young player, and he might possibly become an all-star at some point. But I'm not going to say they're a big 3, though. I'm not going to say that. And I don't understand why you put Brooklyn there. Brooklyn, that 3 never did anything. They haven't even played together, and they might not play together possibly, because you don't know yet where Ben Simmons is going to be mentally when he's going to come back. You don't know what you're going to get from him. You don't know if Kyrie is going to be back, and then if Kyrie is back, what is going to happen with him. You don't know that. And yes, probably KD will be back there. But I don't see those 3 playing a lot together to be considered a big 3.
Mm-hmm. When I saw this list, my reaction was, hell no. Are you kidding me? Who made up this? Somebody had a brain fart when they did this list. So I'm with you. I would put Golden State as number 1 because they're the reigning champ. They got the rings. We put them number 1. Milwaukee has a ring too, but right now I would, it's like 1 and 1A, right? Golden State and Milwaukee. And okay, Phoenix, I agree with you there. Phoenix is a solid team. Their Adrian Chris is getting up there. Yeah. So I don't know what their future is, what the future of that big 3 is. And I would also, though, I think, where's Minnesota, right? Minnesota's got a great big 3 with Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, who they obtained in a trade this year, looking at the potential starting 5 for the T-Wolves. And Anthony Edwards. I like them. I might have slotted them in the top 5 somewhere, certainly ahead of Brooklyn, because like you said, Ben Simmons hadn't played in 12 minutes. I mean, we don't know if he's ever going to play. Another big 3 that I love, even though they haven't played together, are the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are clearly 2 of the more talented players in the league, and John Wall has been. He's a several-time All-Star. Now, he hasn't played he didn't play last season at all either, but that was a decision that was made by Houston in order to give their young players time to mature and grow. So this big 3 hadn't played together yet, but if you're going to put Ben Simmons in there. I think you can put the Clippers in at number 5 because, Kawhi and Paul George have clearly established their talent. John Wall is a clear talent. I think they're going to be fun to watch. So that would be my 5. So I think the Bleacher Report, sometimes folks do things to just be provocative, but there is no way the Brooklyn Nets, they don't even have a big 3. They got 2 and a ghost. So it's like they haven't even deserved a 3 yet. But it was great conversation starter. So thanks for the Bleacher Report for doing that. Let's go to a little bit of NFL news. It was mentioned this week, I think by Adam Schefter at ESPN, that the 49ers in San Francisco had given Jimmy Garoppolo's agent permission to seek a trade. I think this came out really in March, but Adam made it seem as if it was new news. So let's talk about it. Where does Jimmy Garoppolo go? Clearly shows that they're not committed to him this year, but a lot of moves have already been made. What's left for him, and how hard is it going to be to make a trade for him? Is he being traded as a backup, or do you see him possibly starting somewhere?
The one place he can start in is Seattle. Now, that I believe is a 50-50. They're in the same division. But right then and there, he's capable of being a starter there. He clearly has the mechanics still. Now, he had a shoulder injury last March, which is why they didn't trade him sooner, because they would have. Mm-hmm. But he had an injury to his shoulder. So the possibility of Seattle, he would start there, I believe. The possibility of Carolina, he competes with Baker for the starting job. That would be 50-50. That definitely would be a very good competition right there. And then possibly Cleveland if Deshaun Watson has to miss time.
Well, he's going to miss some time. It's just a matter of how many games or whether it's an entire season. I don't think he'll be suspended for the entire season, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's suspended for at least 6 games or maybe half of the season. I agree with you on Seattle. Let me throw out a couple of other possibilities. New Orleans signed Jameis Winston. He had a good season before, so he seems pretty solid as a starter. But you never know with Jameis. It's a long season. There could be some injuries there, or he could just not be as good as they hope for. So that could be a place where he could be a solid answer, a solid second option for the Saints. Here's another one. How about Tampa Bay? Yeah, you got Tom Brady, right? But Tom Brady's 105 years old. He's not going to be there forever. So, why not bring in Jimmy Garoppolo and have him waiting in the wings just in case either Tom decides, you know what, I don't want to go through this again, as he's already done. There's always the possibility of injury. And if nothing else, you've got an heir apparent. You've got somebody who can step in when Brady decides to retire again, likely possibly at the end of this season. So I'm going to throw Tampa Bay in there as another possibility for Jimmy Garoppolo. But it'll be good to see him get healthy and get the opportunity to go somewhere else. 49ers are committed to Trey Lance, so time for him to move on. All right, finally, SEC media days. There were media days around the country, and as certainly as college football moves on, we're going to talk about teams all over the country. But the spotlight was clearly on Atlanta for the SEC media days. Private planes were flying in and out all week. Here comes one. Mike Leach came in with his players and tweeted out that he wore his best pants. I'm like, dude, that must be an ugly closet if those are your best pants. Come on, get it together, Mike Leach. But it's always it's not just talking football. It's time for coaches to have a little fun, to talk about themselves beyond the field. And someone asked Nick Saban, the Alabama coach, of course, what might be something that would surprise people. And his answer was how well he cleans the house. Like what? And apparently Miss Terry, his wife, who everybody here in Alabama knows, during the off season, he said he likes to go play golf. When he comes back, she has a list for him every day. Says she gives me a list and says, run the sweeper, take out the garbage, and pledge the refrigerator. Now, I didn't quite know what pledge the refrigerator meant at first. I mean, think about fraternity, talking about pledge the refrigerator, but I guess taking the pledge and cleaning the refrigerator. So, what did you think of what some of the coaches said? It's a light time. It's a time for coaches to kind of rib each other, to to get some differences out, but really to have some fun and sort of set the tone for the season.
Well, this is one of the few times, if not the only time, you're going to get a lot of laughing and joking from Nick Saban. First of all, once the season starts, unless they win the SEC championship and the national championship, or win a game here and there, you're not going to get that from him that much.
That's like the last smile.
Yeah, that's for one. But in terms of all these other coaches coming out starting, because there's going to be a lot of disappointment from some of these teams based off of losses and not having the seasons that they want to have. Like Mississippi State, they might be bowl eligible, but then you're going to have a lot of losses, especially being in the SEC West. Missouri's talking about the return is the team that they're going to have. I don't think they're going to be good again. A team like Kentucky might be good, they might be okay. Kirby Smart, him as a young coach winning the national championship too, which they're not stuck on that. It's a new season coming up. That's done with. They did it. They won it. That's all good. They're coming back trying to get it again. You're going to have fun with them. Georgia, one of the best teams in the SEC in the country. So it's always good just to see these coaches, see the fun side of them too. And then, they're going to have a serious side depending on what questions are asked of them also. Players are going to they're going to talk about interactions during the off-season workouts and so forth, about their expectations and, some things, what they've done with the new NIL deals, the money that they've made and how they're spending their money and so forth. But it's just good to see not just the football side of coaches and players, but just them as human beings, as men,
Right now, everybody's undefeated. So keep that smile on your face, at least till opening week. So let's talk about the top quarterbacks in the SEC. Jordan Rodgers, who is a former college quarterback at Vanderbilt, who also is now a commentator for the SEC network, came up with his top 5 QBs in the SEC. I don't think there's any question or doubt about Bryce Young being number 1. It's like number 1, and there really isn't a number 2 yet. It's like Bryce Young and everybody else. Then he put Spencer Rattler, and the reason you see him there in an OU uniform is that he's a transfer to South Carolina. So it'll be interesting if South Carolina is able to elevate its game because of the talent that Spencer Rattler brings to them under center. And then Hendon Hooker at Tennessee, KG Jefferson at Arkansas, and Will Rogers at Mississippi State. A lot of football fans haven't heard of a lot of these guys, so it's good to see them get some light. What do you think of this list, and do you think they'll have a discernible impact on their teams this year?
Well, Bryce Young is going to have the impact, not just the fact that he won the Heisman last year. He has a chip on his shoulder. Yes, he won the Heisman. Guess what? They didn't win the national championship. They got there. They didn't win it. It would have been, I think, a complete successful season had Alabama won it and he won the Heisman. His poise is there, everything leadership, and he has the offense. He has the weapons. You have the defense. So he's the number 1 quarterback in the SEC. Definitely, I think, in my eyes, top 5, possibly some people's eyes, number 1 quarterback in the whole country. Mm-hmm. That's for one. KJ Jefferson at Arkansas, he's a big quarterback. He's athletic. He can throw the football. He reminds me of Cam. So I really look forward to watching him a lot because of that, because I don't know if he's a junior or a senior, but whenever he decides to declare for the draft, I really want to see where he goes and how high of a pick he will become. Mm-hmm. Spencer Rattler transferred from Oklahoma to South Carolina. He was good last year at Oklahoma. I want to see how he does with this transfer into a new system, new team, new conference.
You mentioned KJ Jefferson. He's 6'3" and 243 pounds. I mean, he's almost like a defensive end. He, as you said, he reminds you of Cam Newton, but it's almost like he's even bigger than Cam because he's almost got like
he's the same size.
Right.
He's just shorter though. That's the only thing, because Cam is 6'6", but that 250, 260 range, he's around the same size as Cam though.
So it'll be interesting. College football fans should take a look at KJ Jefferson at Arkansas this year. He may be one of the quarterbacks that surprises people. And you mentioned Bryce Young, and Tim Tebow talked about his poise with this quote. Says poise has always been beyond his years. He's so mature. That's what I think anybody who watched Alabama last year was how he was just really able to step in. But that's been a characteristic of Alabama quarterbacks of late, to just show poise, particularly under pressure, under the pressure to win every week, to make smart decisions. So again, Bryce Young is the clear number 1 in the SEC, if not the entire country. But he's got some competition for the Heisman on the other side of the ball. Will Anderson, defensive end, is certainly the most dynamic defensive player in the country. No question, no doubt. He's the player that everybody is going to be watching, a potential number one pick. And if a defensive player is ever going to win the Heisman again, he certainly should be in that mix. He was in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. A lot of conversation about him. A lot of it surrounding the money that he has made through NIL, name, image, and likeness. Jim, tell us a little bit what you thought about what he said, what he's earned, and how he seems to be responding to making well over $1 million, several $1 million, it seems, in NIL deals already.
Well, first of all, he drives a Porsche. He drives a 2021 Porsche for when he's still in college. That's for one. Now, he does this for his family, to take care of his family, to make sure they're able to get to his games and not stressing out about that. And he does put some money to the side, but at one point he was a little crazy with it at first, and then his mom had to tell him, you have to, you end up still have to pay taxes and this and that. So that's when you start to calm down.
Right, mama pulled it back. Yeah. Said, give me that wallet.
That's what I'm saying. So I think now he has that under control. He's still gonna keep some money aside for himself, but it's mainly to just help his family out. And I think that's the biggest thing, because he did say it has changed his life, for one, tremendously. And I believe that. I don't think that's going to distract him and stop his work ethic. He still wants a national championship. He wants a complete season, a successful season. That is winning a national championship. He's going to do that. He's still going to continue to have the work ethic, be the leader, for one. I think he's the best defensive player in the country. I think he should win the Heisman. We're going to say it's a long season. Season has not started yet. You could have made the argument last year too that he could have been a candidate to win it too, and he was the best player in the country, or defensive player in the country as well too. I would like to see him win it. A defensive player has not won the Heisman since Charles Woodson in 97, 98. So I definitely would like him to win it too. One, Alabama, but two, I definitely do like him. I see him, and this probably is going to be his last year in school also.
Sure. Yeah, no question. I mean, there's clearly going to be some tweaks around NIL as the NCAA tries to put some regulations around it. Right now, it's still the wild, wild west. But I think Will Anderson epitomizes the best of NIL. First of all, last year he publicly said, look, I'm not going to focus on that now. I'm just going to focus on playing, which got him a lot of positive response from fans. But this year, he proved himself first. So he probably elevated his worth by not just trying to grab the first deal that he could get. With now making millions, seems to have solid family background that is saying, okay, you went out and spent some money, let's dial it back. And so it's almost practice, it's practice for the NFL. If he is a top pick, and he certainly will be a top pick, he's the number one pick, he's going to sign a contract for several $1 million. And we've seen too often where athletes, particularly in the NFL, end up broke because they aren't able to manage their money. So this is a great opportunity for young athletes to not just make money, but to get the practice of getting the right mindset about investing, saving, paying taxes. So when they get to the next level, when they do sign for the big bucks, that they aren't so bright-eyed and wide-eyed about it, that they lose their minds, and 5, 6, 7 years after they retire, they have no money. So good luck to Will Anderson. Happy to see him doing it the right way, and maybe one of these days we can ride in the Porsche. So while we're talking about Alabama, one of the names that has come up is someone that most fans have not seen yet. That's a new running back, a transfer from Georgia Tech by the name of Jahmyr Gibbs. If you watched A-Day game in the spring, he was the MVP of that game with a 75-yard touchdown run. If you look at him right now, you think, wait, this is an Alabama running back? We're used to seeing big bruising guys like Najee Harris and Derrick Henry. This is a small guy, but he has got speed. He has got thrust. He has got an engine in each foot. So it's going to be a different look for him. They're going to try to get him in spaces to let him do what he can do. He's not going to run through the line like we're used to seeing. But I'm excited to see him. And people have already said that he has been surprising his teammates. What do you know about Jahmyr Gibbs, and what can people expect from him?
Well, I know just transferring from a school like Georgia Tech, and they do run the ball a lot there. But for him to be a smaller back, you think okay, you're going to get him more involved more in the pass game. You're going to get him into more space. You're going to be able to get more first downs just off of the short passes with him too. And you did actually have Najee in the pass game, not last year, the year before that too. And Najee Harris is a big back. Let's be clear on that. He could do it all. He was a big back, but that definitely gives you, because they're going to have a rotation. They're going to have probably at least a 2-back rotation anyway, because I know Nick Saban is still going to want to have the power involved too. He's still going to want to be able to run in between the tackles, with honestly in the SEC, you're really going to have to do more.
You got to do it.
More with power too, in the best conference in all of college football though too. But for him to sometimes you're expecting run, and he just gives you a mismatch sometimes with guys, or being able to beat sometimes linebackers too. So that definitely is a little bit of a change now, which I'm sure they're going to be able to adjust to well. But everybody's talking about that. He's doing a great job. He's doing good in camp so far. So it's going to be interesting to see a little bit of that kind of difference in the run game, or with the running back used in that type of scheme.
Yeah, and I'm interested and excited to see some of the creative ways that he is used. He's been described as almost another wide receiver, so I could see some lineups, some formations where he is put out wide. He's maybe put in a slot. He's put in a position where a receiver would be. So I think we're going to see a lot of creativity from Jahmyr Gibbs. If you're an Alabama fan, you're used to seeing the big running backs. You'll probably see that as well. But Jahmyr Gibbs is going to bring that element of excitement to the game, that here's another guy who can break it on any given play. All right, now it's the early SEC record predictions. We've had a couple of people who've tried to do that. Just look at this list of predictions for this season in the SEC. 12-0 from Alabama. I don't know. It's always tough to predict anybody to be undefeated, but here's the prediction that they're going to be 12-0, and that Georgia would be 11-1. So obviously Georgia's loss would be to Alabama. But then we've got Arkansas at the top of their game. They were 9-4 last year, 9-3 this year. You got Kentucky and Tennessee looking also very strong. So what do you think of this lineup? But man, they get no respect to Auburn. Auburn down there like 4-8. They can't get any love. War Eagle just ain't flying with this group. So what do you think of these predictions?
I do think Alabama goes 12-0. I think they win the SEC championship, and ultimately, I think they're going to win the national championship. I believe this year is their year. They're getting back to it. They've gone undefeated before. Some years they've lost one game and won the national championship. Some years they won the national championship. They won the SEC championship, lost in the national championship. This is their year. Georgia's going to at least lose one game, at least one. They will be back in the playoffs for sure.
Okay, all right. But the rest of those predictions look pretty solid. Of course,
well, Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M, they'll be ranked higher because first of all, they're going to lose to Alabama this year. That's for one, and that's going to be a fight. I know everybody can't wait to have the popcorn ready for that game, but I think that's going to be one of at least two games A&M loses, and I do think Auburn is going to have a kind of down year around that 4-8 or something like that. But I think those were really accurate predictions.
Okay, all right. So I think Auburn needs to have a better year than that for Brian Herson to avoid some of the criticism from fans. They had a pretty good, decent recruiting class, but it's going to take a couple of years for them to really have an impact. If you saw Missouri, don't expect much out of them. Of course, Vandy, they in the wrong league. They'll never really rise to the top of this league. I guess they're just getting a big check from being in the SEC. So we'll see how it all shakes out. It's always good to see some predictions. 12-0 seems pretty hard, but hey, Alabama's done it before, and so it's not totally out of the realm of possibility. All right, young man, thank you for joining me. A lot of great discussion this week. Love the fact that we were able to celebrate and remember Jackie Robinson, and that his widow has been blessed to live 100 years on this earth and continue to represent his legacy. And we'll just sort of see how everything shakes out, from Jimmy Garoppolo to Kevin Durant, whether they go or whether they stay. So until next time, what do we tell everybody to do, Edwin?
Keep balling.
That's right. See you next time. Peace.